It's been a roller coaster of a week, with DICE announcing Battlefield 5 will not receive any more content past the update in June this year, and then social media exploding with an angry mob of disgruntled Battlefield players. In all honesty, I did expect a few more chapters, but considering the last few mediocre updates and consistently subpar content from release, this was probably always going to happen. From its very inception, Battlefield 5 appears to have been a problem child. In this video, I'm going to take a look at the steps DICE need to take for the next Battlefield game, starting with the teasers, along to the reveal, all the way up to the release, and then content drops. We of course don't want to see a repeat of Battlefield 5. That goes for you, me, and of course the people over at EA and DICE. I'll use several examples to explain my thinking, with Battlefield 3 taking centre stage in some areas, Battlefield 4 and 1 also have a part to play, and Battlefield 5 will be doing exactly the opposite. DICE have done great things in the past and there's no reason to think they won't do it again, but Battlefield 5 has to act as an example of how not to do things on so many different levels. Behind the scenes, the process of creating the game consists of many things: a concept, themes, aesthetics, core gameplay concepts, game mechanics, level design, and loads of other factors that will almost certainly take years to put together. This isn't something we have an influence on, just as the public who consume the game, and it's probably all been taking place for well over a year already. I'd also say that this is something most of us know very little about, so commenting on it is fairly difficult. What we do see though is the reveal. We get to experience the hard work DICE put in, however it's also the part that often undoes a lot of the hard work. You might have a good game, but if you reveal it in the wrong way, you're wasting a great opportunity. Let's start out with the first reveal of the game. This is the teaser, the first push to get that ball rolling. It's very important to create the right impression, as at this point no one really knows whether the game will be a roaring success or a total failure. You essentially want to get a strong foundation in place. Check out how Battlefield 3 did this early back in 2011. It was a simple glimpse into the theme and the setting of the game, with the overarching glitch effect taking centre stage. This was spot on. It told us that we'd be fighting in a modern setting with lots of vehicles, helicopters, tanks, jets, infantry, explosions, all-out war. The title of the game was on screen and we had around 30 seconds of hype. How did Battlefield 4 tease us? Well, it was a little bit different this time, with a few very short clips showing the different vehicles we'd get, a propeller, a tank track, and so on. It was a different way to approach it, but again, it set the ball rolling, and they had some gimmicky prepare for battle things. It doesn't really matter, it got people hyped up. Probably my favourite of all the teasers, and arguably the most simple, was Battlefield 1. This got people talking, and rightly so. Check it out in the background now. If you were to see this, maybe for a modern Battlefield game, I'm pretty certain it would do the trick of getting people hyped. With Battlefield 5, I seem to remember the teaser coming in the form of a picture of a horse, and then we had the full official reveal trailer. I might be wrong here, but with the multitude of disappointments associated with this game, I've actually found it very difficult to keep track. With the other three games, Battlefield 3, 4 and 1, those teasers all remain in my memory as fairly significant events, but with BF5 I can't really remember things that clearly. The trailer was a flop when compared to the usual lofty heights DICE achieve with these things, and as of today the dislikes are at 539,000, with the likes sitting well below that at 350,000. It wasn't well received at all. It pitched the game in entirely the wrong direction. It didn't do anything to captivate the audience and instead forced a narrative with no clear direction. I suppose the most controversial thing was a woman wielding a cricket bat alongside a prosthetic arm. The thing is, all people wanted was a little bit of realism. They wanted to play World War II. That's all. If you're making a World War II game, please read a history book beforehand. Why bother otherwise? Loads of women did fight in the war, don't get me wrong, this isn't I hate women in video games. Very few people in Battlefield have that approach, despite what you may have read. We had also just come off the back of the Russian DLC in Battlefield 1, a content drop that brought women to the front lines in a really tasteful and realistic manner. Force-feeding a frankly insulting and completely out of place narrative to a highly invested audience was definitely a bad move. It wasn't just the woman in the trailer. The entire trailer was just not to standard, and it didn't really do a good job of conveying Battlefield. For the next game, what should they do for the reveal? Simple. A short teaser, maybe 20 seconds long, show a silhouette of a US Marine, maybe a reflection of a T-14. How about an M16 just lying down in a pile of debris with a fallen soldier next to it? DICE don't need lessons on how to be creative, they're really damn good at it, and some of the people they have working over there are just incredible at what they do. But I feel as if maybe with Battlefield 5 they had a marketing team or a direction or whatever it was that just didn't get it. They didn't understand how to hype up a game. Whether Battlefield and Battlefield 6 is going to be an amazing game or not, there's no reason why the trailer can't be fantastic. The teaser should be wonderful. That's the bit that you can just do on your own. It doesn't matter if the game's bad. As long as the teaser sets the ball rolling, things will usually follow on from there. Moving on from that, we have the build-up. What I mean by build-up is what happens from that initial teaser that you might get 6 months before the game launches, all the way up to the alpha, the beta, and then the game. During the build-up for a new game, you need to keep that hype train rolling. Behind the scenes, a million things will be taking place. Getting the game ready for release across multiple platforms, planning upcoming content, getting the right things tested and ready for release. On the surface though, all of that can be undone unless you really take care with the build-up. It's like the shop front. You might have the best product in the world, but if the front of your shop looks terrible, not a lot of people are going to buy it, or they may even get the wrong impression about it. If you have a shop front with a big sign saying, if you don't like it, don't buy it, or you're all uneducated, then it goes without saying the impact would indeed be catastrophic. As you all know, Battlefield 5 did in fact take that fateful approach, with Patrick Soderlund digging in his heels and directly stating that Battlefield 5 is about the unseen, the untold, the unplayed, focusing on the importance of women in the conflict. Within this, he stated people are uneducated if they don't want women in video games, which to some extent is true, but that's not really what he meant, and that we shouldn't buy the game if we don't like it. Missing the point entirely, he essentially insulted the player base and condemned his own game. DICE shouldn't need to justify the inclusion of women in video games at all. They made such a big deal out of something that could have been so simple and messed it up in the process. No one is denying women of having their part in World War II. They were there, sure, but a frontline cricket bat wielding woman with a prosthetic arm alongside a very odd looking motley crew of players was a bit too much. Take a look at this picture here, and what does it tell you about Battlefield? I think it's pretty much spot on with what we were about to receive, and it certainly didn't represent the Second World War. So with that being said, how would you do it properly? Once again, we're going to take a little look back to Battlefield 3, and I implore you to go and watch Jack's video from, I think it was 2018, where he looked at Battlefield 3 and the marketing masterpiece that ensued after the initial teaser. A really great video, but to just give you a little synopsis of what Battlefield 3 did, it had been hyped up with little snippets of information through 2009 and 2010. Nothing major, but little things to get people hyped, and it also gave the media something to talk about. It created a bit of a buzz. Lots of guessing occurred until that small reveal I talked about earlier. We had around 30 seconds showcasing a couple of different things, the glitch effect, the title. We could tell it was modern military. What happened after that was really quite amazing. In late February we got a single player gameplay reveal, in March we got the reveal event, more single player released, and then all throughout March we got even more single player, leading up to some really incredible videos that just showcased what this game was about. It was going to be next gen, Frostbite 2, people were just blown away with the graphics, and DICE really wanted to show that off. On June the 6th, real pre-alpha multiplayer was shown on Metro, and during E3, people actually played the game and loved it, with the reactions being shared. A new single player mission was showcased right after, keeping people hyped up with loads of content being thrown at them. More info on the game mechanics and technology was provided for those that were interested, and even more gameplay followed with a closed alpha in late July. Gamescom came on August the 16th with a Caspian Border gameplay trailer, and on September the 9th, even more single player gameplay dropped. Jay-Z had a collaboration with his 99 Problems, and that trailer was really cool. And then on September we had the beta, and fans played it, and fans absolutely loved it. On October the 18th, we had the multiplayer trailer. The Damavan Peak base jump was there. We had all sorts of maps showcasing everything that you could ever want from a Battlefield game. It was pitched at the right time as well. You'd kind of built up to it, and as the game was about to release, you had this final big trailer to get more people on board and get the people who were maybe on the fence definitely on board, and the people who had pre-ordered were just loving it. A teaser for Back to Karkin dropped. October 21st, the Battlefield 3 launch trailer. Unbelievable, 10 out of 10. Here's a snippet. I suggest watching Jack's video, as I said, for this if you're looking for kind of an overarching opinion on Battlefield 3's marketing and just a really in-depth video.
Get down on the ground!
DICE need to consider the success they had with Battlefield 3 when it came to that marketing campaign and adapt this to fit the modern day social media platforms and the vast array of marketing potential. Things are a little bit different now to what they were 10 years ago, but for the most part, you're creating things to build up a hype that then people can follow and enjoy. Battlefield 6, assuming it's actually a good game, should be showcased at every available opportunity, building up to a final reveal trailer. Snippets of gameplay, teasers, show the audience what they want to see, but at the same time, keep them wanting more. Now on to the third part of this video, a quick look at what happens with the launch of a game. Again, behind the scenes, there is so much that occurs that I can't really comment on. Loads of people are doing loads of things, and we don't really know what happens there. Again, what we can say though is what happens on the surface and what we experience. As with many games, the initial launch can cause many problems, servers crashing, bugs, problems that were not picked up in testing, and many other issues. We've all seen it before. Ultimately, the game needs to be in a finished state before releasing, that goes without saying, and maybe it needs to have a lot of those promised features that will have been shown in those teasers included. No doubt we'll have to endure another hateful early access circus with some people getting access to the game a few days early if they pay for it, whilst others have to sit and wait. Deluxe editions and the like will no doubt be plastered all over the broken launcher that is Origin. That being said, if the game is good, people won't really care. With Battlefield 5 for example, the Deluxe Edition and the airdrops that came and were a complete disaster would have all been forgotten if DICE had released some really good chapters and taken us around some theatres of war that everyone expected. They didn't, and then people fell back onto things like the Deluxe Edition being such a disaster, and that almost snowballed in itself. Launch the game, keep everything positive, get people playing. I guess we'll see a huge sponsored event as well, like last time, with a load of streamers that rarely play Battlefield in their life try and play, but again, this is part and parcel of the sort of marketing campaigns we see today. Ideally, the game will be good enough for people to actually play it on their own without a sponsored incentive, and also have features on release like community servers, and of course a working game that functions in all the right ways that will just get people playing anyway. Now on to the final part of this video, the content. This is a big one. In previous Battlefield games we've seen a premium model. Essentially what happens is you buy the main game for £40, £50, £60, whatever it is. You can then buy a season pass or individually buy the DLC, which drops every few months, giving you new maps, new weapons, new content. Now this changed with Battlefield 5 to a live service, which can work for free-to-play games, also appears to be used on paid games where you purchase a game and the game is then updated almost as a service throughout time. DICE can change the game if they want, they can add things, they can take things away, and they're not hemmed in by certain legal aspects where they have to deliver on things as they were with a premium service. Arguably, this is something you would use for a game that isn't quite in the right stage of development. It isn't there and ready to release like Battlefield 3 was. Maybe with Battlefield 5 they were forced to take a live service because content simply wouldn't be there for a decent premium model, and it gave them more freedom. People enjoy both of these approaches, they both work. However, they have to obviously be done to a higher standard to what we saw with Battlefield 5. Again, premium in my opinion is fine, although there are a few tweaks I'd make, and the live service can also work. In my opinion, Battlefield 3 would have been just as successful under a well-run live service model, but on the other side of the coin, Battlefield 5 probably wouldn't have worked on a premium model. It's more to do with the game and how that works than to do with how you deliver the content. Needless TTK changes, delayed content, underwhelming chapters, incredibly complicated levelling and progression that had no depth to it, no community games, no updates for Firestorm, a massive push for microtransactions over anything else, and a lot of bugs that just weren't fixed. That's what killed Battlefield, not so much the live service. Ultimately, the game needs to launch in a good state and then receive proper content updates in order to inject life into the game at those times where it kind of drops off a little bit, as always happens with a game. Creators need news to get the hype going. In order for more copies to be sold and for the game to stay relevant, more content needs to create a buzz. In the case of Battlefield 5, the untold story approach DICE wanted to take could have been incredible. Think of every World War II movie you've ever watched. I guarantee you they don't cover the length and breadth of the Second World War. A war so vast that it involved 30 countries and claimed the lives of 75 million people. Yet we only got to see a few theatres of war and arguably only a few significant battles in Battlefield 5. Where was Berlin, the Battle of the Bulge, Monte Cassino, Normandy, Kharkov, Stalingrad, Leningrad, Market Garden, Barbarossa, and all the rest? You want an epic story? How about you tell the story of Dunkirk and invent a new mode purely for that retreat? Why not look at the sacrifice made by the Belgian people, or even the Battle of Britain? Instead, we got a selection of bland generic maps with no history behind them. Battlefield 1 at least gave us a story with operations, whilst Battlefield 5 Grand Operations was a grand failure. This video has been here to pretty much sum up my thoughts of what needs to occur with the next Battlefield game. What needs to happen from that very initial release trailer, or maybe even that teaser trailer, all the way through to DLC being dropped into the game's life. It sounds simple, but it's probably not, as we've seen with Battlefield 5. So many things can go wrong. Let me know in the comments what you think of this. Have you got your own idea to how DICE should approach this? Could they even do something completely wild and off the wall like we saw with Apex, where they don't do anything at all in terms of marketing and then drop the game? Or could they do a Valorant approach where the game's free to play and they're getting people to play on Twitch to have those drops where they can get keys to play the game in early access? There's a million ways to do this, but to be honest, I think the Battlefield 3 way would really work well. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed. Leave a like if you did, feel free to leave a dislike if you didn't, and I'll catch you in the next video.